CM Punk, born Philip Jack Brooks, has been involved in multiple documented incidents of unprofessional conduct during his career. In 2005, during his time in Ring of Honor, fellow wrestler Kevin Owens described a backstage dispute in which Punk confronted him over a merchandise design Owens was selling, claiming it was too similar to Punk's own shirt. In All Elite Wrestling, Punk became involved in a public conflict with Hangman Adam Page. On May 25, 2022, during the Go Home episode of AEW Dynamite before Double or Nothing 2022, Punk delivered unscripted remarks that criticized Page, an action known in professional wrestling as going into business for oneself. This followed an earlier incident in which Page had deviated from agreed-upon dialogue in a promotional segment. The most high-profile incident occurred on September 4, 2022, after the AEW All Out pay-per-view. During the post-show conference, Punk made direct and unprompted remarks about Colt Cabana, Page, and AEW Executive Vice Presidents Matt and Nick Jackson, accusing them of spreading rumors and interfering in backstage matters. AEW owner Tony Khan was present during these statements. Shortly after, Punk was involved in a physical altercation backstage with the Jacksons and Kenny Omega. AEW suspended all parties involved, pending an internal investigation. Punk returned to AEW television in June 2023. On August 27, 2023, at AEW All In Wembley Stadium, London, Punk was involved in a backstage confrontation with wrestler Jack Perry. His contract was officially terminated on September 2, 2023. The Ultimate Warrior, born James Bryan Hellwig, was one of the World Wrestling Federation's top stars from 1987 to 1991 and briefly in 1992 and 1996, but multiple documented accounts describe unprofessional and abrasive conduct during and after his wrestling career. In his autobiography Hitman: My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling, Bret Hart detailed an incident from Warrior's original WWF run in which a Make-A-Wish Foundation meeting was arranged for a terminally ill child. According to Hart, Warrior refused to meet the child, claiming he was too busy, while in reality he was talking casually with other wrestlers backstage. The child left without meeting him, an event Hart stated left a lasting negative impression. Another documented incident occurred during a Canadian tour in the early 1990s. A young fan approached Warrior at an airport for an autograph, and witnesses stated he was openly rude. The fan's father, identified in reports as a general manager at a television station airing WWF programming, threatened to pull the company's show from their schedule. Vince McMahon directed Warrior to record an apology video for the child. Multiple production staff present later stated that Warrior resisted the task and required several takes before completing it. Warrior's public speaking engagements also attracted controversy. On April 5, 2005, during a speech at DePaul University, he made derogatory remarks about the gay community, stating that same-sex couples suffered from the same disease as priests in the Catholic Church. In February 2008, following actor Heath Ledger's death, Warrior published a blog post calling Ledger's passing a good thing and suggesting it removed a negative influence. Warrior did not issue public apologies for these statements. John Bradshaw Layfield has been involved in multiple documented incidents of backstage harassment and hazing during his WWE career. In the early 2000s, during a WWE overseas tour, JBL reportedly grabbed Steve Blackman inappropriately while passing through an airport. Blackman, a legitimate martial artist, warned him to stop. When JBL repeated the act, Blackman struck him multiple times, forcing JBL to withdraw. This account was detailed by Bob Hardcore Holly in his 2013 autobiography, The Hardcore Truth. On June 12, 2005, at WWE's ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view, JBL struck wrestler Brian the Blue Meanie Heffron with legitimate punches during an in-ring segment, opening a cut that required 12 stitches. The altercation followed the Blue Meanie publicly accusing JBL of being a backstage bully, and the weeks after the incident, WWE signed Meanie to a short-term contract and booked him to defeat JBL on the July 7, 2005 episode of SmackDown. Industry reports at the time described the booking as a way to settle the matter and avoid potential legal action. Other wrestlers and staff members have publicly stated that they were targeted by JBL, including Mark Henry, Mike The Miz Mizanine, Justin Roberts, Joey Styles, and commentator Mauro Ranallo. In March 2017, Ranallo missed several weeks of SmackDown live broadcasts. While Ranallo has denied that bullying was the reason for his absence, multiple media outlets reported that his hiatus followed backstage issues with JBL. WWE took no formal disciplinary action against JBL, but in May 2017, he left the SmackDown commentary team and moved into an ambassador role within the company. Austin Aries, born Daniel Healy Sowell Jr., has been involved in multiple documented incidents of unprofessional conduct across his career in TNA Wrestling, WWE, and the independent circuit. On May 16, 2013, during a live broadcast of Impact Wrestling on Spike TV, ring announcer Christy Hem introduced Aries and his partner Bobby Roode using the wrong names. After Hem corrected herself, Aries climbed the turnbuckles and positioned his crotch close to Hem's face in an unscripted action. TNA management confirmed after the show that Aries was fined and he issued a public apology. The segment was later edited out of replays. On October 14, 2018, at Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory pay-per-view, Aries lost the scheduled main event match to Johnny Impact, John Hennigan. Immediately after taking the finishing move, Aries stood up, exited the ring, and walked backstage without selling the defeat, an act referred to in-ring as no-selling. Impact Wrestling officials considered the behavior unprofessional. This was Aries' final appearance for the promotion, and he has not been booked by Impact Wrestling since. In June 2020, during the #SpeakingOut movement, multiple individuals made public accusations of sexual misconduct against Aries on social media. Aries denied all allegations and no criminal charges were filed. Following the publicity surrounding these accusations, Aries has not signed with any major wrestling promotion. Since 2019, he has primarily appeared for independent organizations in front of small live audiences. New Jack, born Jerome Young, was known for an extreme in-ring style that often crossed into legitimate violence. On November 23, 1996, at an ECW house show in Revere, Massachusetts, in an incident later known as the Mass Transit Incident, New Jack teamed with Mustafa Saeed against D. Von Dudley and an untrained 17-year-old Eric Koulis, performing under the name Mass Transit. During the match, Koulis requested to be bladed for blood. New Jack used a surgical scalpel to cut him, causing excessive bleeding that required hospitalization. Koulis' family later filed a lawsuit, which was dismissed after a jury found in New Jack's favor. On March 12, 2000, at ECW's Living Dangerously pay-per-view in Danbury, Connecticut, New Jack faced Vic Grimes in a tag team match that involved a planned high spot from a scaffold. The sequence went wrong when Grimes landed on New Jack's head, fracturing his skull, causing brain damage and leaving him blind in his right eye. On February 23, 2002, at XPW's Freefall event in Los Angeles, the two met again in a scaffold match. After pushing Grimes from roughly 40 feet through tables, New Jack later stated in shoot interviews that he intended to throw Grimes as far as I could to seriously injure or kill him in retaliation for the 2000 incident. On April 13, 2003, wrestling for the independent promotion Thunder Wrestling Federation in Florida, New Jack faced William Jason Lane. Video footage and police reports show that after Lane struck New Jack with multiple stiff, full-force punches, New Jack pulled a knife from his gear and stabbed Lane repeatedly in the back, neck, and head area. Lane was hospitalized but survived. New Jack was arrested and charged with multiple felonies. Lane later dropped the charges in exchange for New Jack agreeing to train him, and New Jack resumed wrestling shortly after. Randy Orton, born Randall Keith Orton, was involved in multiple documented incidents of unprofessional conduct during the early years of his WWE career. In late 2004 or early 2005, former WWE diva Rochelle Lowen stated in interviews that after she failed to recognize Orton when they were introduced, he retaliated by pouring baby oil and tanning lotion into her personal belongings. She also alleged that Orton defecated in one of her bags. There is no public record of Orton responding to these allegations, and no disciplinary action from WWE was reported. During 2005 to 2006, while WWE writer Court Bauer was part of the creative team, he reported an incident in which Orton entered the writer's office, put his hands down his pants, touched himself, and then extended his hand to a writer while saying, "I'm Randy Orton, shake my hand." According to Bauer, if the writer refused, Orton would accuse them of disrespecting him and threaten to report it to Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon. On May 25, 2009, during a televised tag team match on Raw, Mr. Kennedy returned from injury and performed a high back body drop on Orton, who landed on his shoulder and neck. Following the match, Orton and John Cena reportedly told WWE management they believed Kennedy was unsafe in the ring. Kennedy was released from the company 2 days later, marking his final WWE appearance. On December 14, 2009, during a singles match with Kofi Kingston on Raw, Kingston mistimed a sequence involving Orton's punt kick. Orton reacted by shouting "stupid" multiple times in the ring and delivering a stiff RKO. Kingston's main event push, which had been building for several months, ended shortly afterward. In later interviews during a 2023 appearance on Impulsive, Orton acknowledged that he had acted unprofessionally earlier in his career, attributing it to immaturity and insecurity. He stated that he was given repeated chances by WWE management and credited senior company figures with intervening when his conduct became an issue. The Dynamite Kid, born Thomas Billington, wrestled for the World Wrestling Federation from 1984 to 1988 and was renowned for his in-ring technical ability. Multiple former colleagues, including Bruce Pritchard and Bret Hart, have described him as a backstage prankster whose actions often crossed professional boundaries. Hart recounted that Billington would spike other wrestlers' drinks with halcyon, a sedative, without their consent. Other documented ribs include cutting up wrestlers' clothing and damaging personal property during tours in both WWF and Japan. Billington's former wife, Michelle Billington, has detailed incidents of domestic abuse in interviews and in the Dark Side of the Ring documentary. She described being forced to sleep in a closet after refusing to drink alcohol, and an incident in which he intentionally drove erratically to frighten her. The most severe case occurred in 1991 at their home in Calgary, Alberta, after she informed him she intended to leave and return to Canada with their children. Michelle stated that Billington physically assaulted her, retrieved a shotgun, and threatened to kill her while she was pregnant in full view of their children. She reported that no police action was taken at the time. The combination of substance abuse, violent behavior towards colleagues, and the severity of the domestic abuse allegations has been cited by multiple wrestling historians and industry veterans as a primary reason Billington has not been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, despite his influence on modern wrestling style. Logan Paul, born April 1, 1995, began his public career as a YouTube content creator before transitioning into professional wrestling. On December 31, 2017, while in Japan, he uploaded a YouTube video filmed in Aokigahara Forest that included footage of a deceased suicide victim. The video remained online for several hours before being removed. The upload prompted widespread international backlash, led to YouTube suspending his ad revenue partnerships temporarily, and resulted in Paul issuing a public apology on January 2, 2018. In August 2021, Paul announced CryptoZoo, a blockchain-based game in which players could purchase and breed NFT animals with the expectation that their value would increase over time. Promotional videos released on Paul's YouTube channel claim the game would be a long-term, fully functional project. In January 2023, investigative YouTuber CoffeeZilla released a 3-part series alleging that CryptoZoo never became operational, that investors collectively lost an estimated $4 million, and that Paul failed to follow through on the project. Paul initially denied responsibility, attributing the failure to developers before later stating he would compensate affected investors. A class action lawsuit was filed in February 2023 in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas and remains ongoing as of 2025. Paul first wrestled in WWE at WrestleMania 38 on April 2, 2022, in a tag team bout alongside The Miz against Rey and Dominic Mysterio. His signing with WWE was officially announced on June 30, 2022. Subsequent appearances have included singles matches against The Miz at SummerSlam 2022, Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel 2022, and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 39. While his in-ring performances have been positively received by some fans, no public reports from WWE personnel have documented consistent patterns of unprofessional backstage behavior since his signing. Vince McMahon, born August 24, 1945, served as chairman and chief executive officer of World Wrestling Entertainment for decades and has been linked to multiple documented allegations of misconduct during his tenure. Between 1988 and 1992, WWE was connected to the Ring Boy scandal, in which then-employees Mel Phillips and Terry Garvin were accused of sexually abusing underage male ring attendants. While McMahon was not charged in connection with the allegations, he publicly defended the company's handling of the matter, which resulted in the dismissal of certain staff and significant media scrutiny. In April 1992, former WWE referee Rita Chatterton appeared on television and accused McMahon of sexually assaulting her in 1986 inside a limousine. McMahon denied the allegation and filed a defamation lawsuit against Chatterton, which he later dropped. In 1999, former WWE performer Reina Sable Mero filed a $110 million lawsuit against McMahon and WWE, alleging sexual harassment and unsafe working conditions. The case was settled out of court in 2001, with industry reports citing a payout of approximately $1.5 million. On June 15, 2022, the Wall Street Journal reported that WWE's board of directors was investigating a $3 million hush payment made by McMahon to a former paralegal who alleged an affair and workplace misconduct. A follow-up report on July 8, 2022 alleged that McMahon had paid a total of $12 million over 16 years to 4 women, including former WWE employees, in exchange for their silence regarding accusations of sexual misconduct and infidelity. These payments were made through non-disclosure agreements, some funded personally by McMahon. Following these revelations, McMahon announced his retirement from WWE on July 22, 2022. McMahon returned to the company on January 6, 2023 after reinstating himself to the board of directors. Former WWE wrestler Tony Atlas has stated in interviews that during McMahon's tenure, the treatment of female talent backstage frequently involved harassment and exploitation, describing the environment as unsafe for women. These accounts, combined with legal settlements and investigative findings, remain central to public and legal scrutiny of McMahon's leadership and conduct.